The Philadelphia 76ers continue to lose, but that is a good thing for the future of the franchise, as we've talked about. They need to increase their odds and their likelihood of getting that first round pick by getting their lottery odds in between pick number 1 and pick number 6. And the only way to do that is to continue to lose basketball games. But over the course of this time, with all the high profile players on the Sixers roster, between Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, McCain, Paul George, you name them, you go down the list, the veterans and everything. The young guys are on the tryout basis. I've talked about this in several videos, and there is one particular Sixer that has been shining in his extended minutes in recent weeks. That is second-round center Adem Bona, rookie out of UCLA. He was a raw prospect, to put it quite frankly. Coming out of UCLA, a hyper-athletic guy, runs the floor well, blocks shots, rebounds, plays really hard. But he's a raw prospect. He still needs a lot of development and a lot of work on his skills. But the future of this team and of this franchise, as we know, as we say time and time again, is around the health of Joel Embiid. And even if Joel Embiid is able to return to the floor healthy, he needs a solid backup behind him for the rest of his career that the Sixers can count on. And Adem Bona has shined in recent games and is looking more and more like a potential long-term backup. And who knows about the future of Joel Embiid, but I'm not even putting a ceiling on Adem Bona being a backup going forward. He could have eventually developed into that starting center down the line for the Philadelphia 76ers. His last 3 games, he's been on a tear, playing the best basketball I think you can argue of his career. He's been getting extended minutes, and we're starting to see the results of this extended time, of this development that he's had throughout his rookie season in the NBA. 26.3 minutes per game, 13 points per game, 8.6 rebounds per game, and 2.6 blocks per game over his last 3 games. He's been shining, and it's all part of the plan where the Sixers are still losing basketball games, and that's what's needed in this time. I've talked about it. Quentin Grimes has looked like a stud. He's looked awesome. He's earning his role for sure for next year, and probably a pretty lofty contract. Justin Edwards has been up and down. Lonnie Walker's had his moments. Adem Bona is also getting some extended time. Andre Drummond not playing as much, and maybe if the Sixers want to continue to lose games, they put Andre Drummond out there a little bit more because he is cooked. He is a shell of what he used to be. But the Sixers need to figure out kind of this long-term center spot, not only behind Joel Embiid, but potentially in the future for Joel Embiid as well, to take over for him maybe down the line. And while Adem Bona is not ready to be a starting NBA center right now, he is a guy that I think over time you can kind of count on to develop into a 15 to 20 minute guy off the bench. And he's looking better and better, and you have to be encouraged by his signs of development. As we said, over these past few games, he's had 26 minutes per game, 13 points per game, a little over 8 rebounds, a little over 2.5 blocks. And he's just a guy that plays hard. When you see him out there, he is constantly running, constantly playing hard, has a great motor. And that is certainly an encouraging sign for a young player, and something that Adem Bona can kind of hang his hat on. I think that's his calling card trait kind of in the NBA. He's going to constantly play hard. And at his size, that is not really a teachable skill. This guy just kind of has that it factor to him, that he is able to go out there, play hard 24/7, and he's able to contribute on the court as well. In this extended run, in these extended minutes, he's found ways to produce. And when it kind of goes back to the big picture topic with Adem Bona at the beginning, as I was saying, a raw prospect coming out of UCLA. You look at his stats, this isn't a guy that you're like, oh, I got to jump out at this. Like, you got to look at his profile, his athleticism, everything in between, all the kind of intangible type things. But he wasn't a monster in college putting up crazy numbers, 12.4 points, 5.9 rebounds this past year at UCLA. That's not eye-popping stuff popping off the page. This is a raw prospect. He's not very strong outside of around the rim. You don't really want him shooting the ball much, but lobs, dunking anything, finishing layups around the rim, blocking shots. He's got all the tools to be a really effective center, I think, down the line in the NBA. But as of right now, as of this moment, you're not really asking for much. And as we said, this is a guy that's still very young, only in his rookie year, only 2 years at UCLA, played 26 minutes per game last year, 22 minutes a night the year before. This is really the first kind of extended run that he's been getting in the NBA. Sure, he's had some minutes where he's played over 15 minutes per game, 20 minutes per game, but this is a legit shot, and he's got 17 more games throughout the season to do it. Joel Embiid won't be stepping on the floor again this season. Andre Drummond is going to play sparingly. This is kind of Adem Bona's show, and his chance to showcase that he can be the long-term center at least at the backup spot for the immediate future for the Sixers, but maybe even the long-term center kind of down the line for this franchise. He's got a golden opportunity to make himself some money and earn himself some real trust within the front office and the coaching staff, and it still remains to be seen if those guys are going to be back next year. but he has a real golden opportunity, and he's making the most of it over these last few weeks. As I said, he's going to be getting more and more extended minutes, but if you're trying him out there for 26 minutes and those are the numbers he's putting up, even in losing defeats, that's an encouraging sign for a guy who's an extremely young and raw prospect. He's been shining in recent weeks. When you look at kind of his season and his per 36 minutes, they line up kind of with what he's been doing recently. 10.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, about 2.5 blocks per game. Those are his per 36 averages. So you are encouraged by that, to put it quite frankly. And as I've said multiple times on the show, on these episodes in the recent weeks, it's tryout time for these guys. It's showcase time. It's your chance to really make a name for yourself and carve out a role. Maybe it's not in Philadelphia, but at least next year with the Sixers, Adem Bona will be here, and maybe he plays himself into a bigger contract somewhere else down the line. But these guys have a golden opportunity ahead of them, all these young players, whether it's Justin Edwards, Lonnie Walker, Adem Bona. I know Lonnie Walker I kind of threw in there, but he's still playing for a spot next year. Quentin Grimes has more than made a name for himself and an opportunity for himself and earn himself a big contract. Justin Edwards needs to start picking it up a little bit better. I've been discouraged, I think, by his performances in the past couple of weeks. But Adem Bona is a guy that is certainly making the most of his opportunities, and I think that's cool to see in such a down time as a Sixers fan, in such a down period for this franchise right now. One of the, if not most disappointing seasons of the entire Embiid era. I know it was disappointing at the beginning when he was out with his foot injuries, but expectation-wise, I think you have to make the argument that this is the most disappointing season probably since, 2000 hit. 25 years in, this is the most disappointing season, I think, at least personally, I've had as a Philadelphia 76ers fan, because at least going into the process years, you knew the goal was to tank. You knew the goal was to lose games. Now the Sixers had expectations. Paul George coming in, with Tyrese Maxey on the max deal, with Joel Embiid hopefully coming back after 2 years ago being the MVP, looking like the MVP last year until he got hurt. All the expectations coming into this year, and for them to fall flat like this has been super discouraging, but you have to kind of take some positives and some look at it in a perspective of a positive light going forward, at least a little bit. When it comes to a guy like Jared McCain, played well over his head and well over our expectations and is looking like a potential star. Tyrese Maxey has been up and down this year, but still an encouraging, certainly piece for the future, maybe the guy for the franchise. Now it's kind of about rounding out these other role players. Quentin Grimes has looked awesome. Adem Bona, you need that long-term backup. Joel Embiid has never had a sufficient backup consistently behind him. Andre Drummond was good in spurts. Now he's a shell of himself. Bona is a hyper-athletic, rim-running, shot-blocking big man. Doesn't offer you much outside the lane, but these are the opportunities for him to kind of work at that. Let's see what kind of post moves he has. Let's see if he can develop a mid-range kind of foul line area jump shot. These are the reps that he needs to get, and a guy like Bona is a guy that I want to play in the Summer League next year, but he's only going to get better as he continues to play. As we talked about, a raw prospect, 2 at UCLA, you saw it in flashes, and you've seen it in flashes in the NBA, but it's all about putting it together. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think about Adem Bona in his recent play? As we talked about, 26 minutes per game over these last 3, averaging 13 points, 8 boards, 2.5 blocks. Very encouraging performances, I think. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think he can be the center of the future for after Joel Embiid? Or are you confident that he could be the backup behind Joel Embiid next year if Embiid's able to get healthy? What other young guys do you kind of want to see more of and get some more reps and get some more minutes over these last few weeks of the Philadelphia 76ers season? Because it's all about the tryouts and looking forward to next year, I think, at this point, while continuing to lose games, and hopefully you fall into that top 6 with the picks. But let me know in the comments below. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, and we'll be talking to you next time here on Sixers Digest.